Okay, so of the questions in part A, I would say B and C should be the ones that should be the easiest for you. Your calculator doesn't have a cosecant button, but you can do 1 over sine. And your calculator doesn't have a cotangent button, but you can do 1 over tangent. But what's the big difference between part B and part C? Right, you better be paying attention to what mode your calculator needs to be in. For part B, our calculator needs to be in degrees because this is 160 degrees. So, mode, third option down, we want to know the cosecant of 160. So about 2.924. This is 2.924. Okay, for this one, 3 pi over 2 is in radians. So we would need to switch our calculator to radian mode first. And 1 over tangent of 3 pi over 20 is the same thing as the cotangent of 3 pi over 20. So about 1.963. Okay, but part A, we didn't talk about this until later in the year. This one doesn't get thrown in the calculator the same way. Arc secant is the same thing as inverse secant. And just like you don't have a secant button, you don't have an inverse secant button. So the next best thing that you can do, and this is how you have to type it in the calculator, is you have to do inverse cosine. But secant and cosine are reciprocals, but you need to make sure that you do not the reciprocal angle, the reciprocal ratio. The ratio is what's being plugged in an inverse function. So we would need to do inverse cosine of 1 over 4.1. It needs to be in radians. Inverse trig functions only exist in radians. So inverse cosine of its reciprocal ratio is 1.324. So you guys need to understand what the difference between these is. Why I didn't do the reciprocal of the angle in B and C is the same reason I'm not doing the reciprocal of the angle in part A, but it looks a lot different. Reciprocal ratio, reciprocal ratio, reciprocal ratio. Just make sure that you're consistent.